We've got breaking news out of Major League Baseball where Angels star Mike Trout will miss the remainder of the season. The three-time MVP tore his surgically repaired meniscus, which was operated back in May. He suffered that injury last week while on a rehab assignment. Now, Trout played a career low 29 games this season, with his last appearance coming back on April 29th. You look at some of his past injuries here. That torn meniscus, only playing 29 games, as we mentioned, this year. A broken hamate bone in 2023. Back inflammation in 2022. In 2021, dealing with a calf strain, only playing 36 games. Matt Snyder joining us now on HQ. So, Matt, another injury for Mike Trout. What is your take on the news that we just found out?
It's a little bit depressing. As a big fan of baseball and a big fan of Trout, he's so fun to watch, and he's one of the, when you look at just his prime, he's had one of the best primes in the history of Major League Baseball. So it kind of has been a shame these last few years to not see him continue to compile those stats, like the hits, the runs, the RBIs, getting that WAR up there. Just, it would have been so cool to see, if he could stay fully healthy, what he could have done in terms of the historical presence that he would have across the leaderboards as a center fielder, or even regardless of position. But as it stands, he's still going to be a Hall of Famer. It's just his numbers are going to be severely impacted by all these injuries. And I also think it is a bit depressing that it's been something different every single time, because it leads you to believe, I know we're all human and maybe it's not the most logical thing, but it leads you to believe there's something that's just going to keep happening every single year. When 4 years in a row a different injury has popped up, it's just worrisome that something's going to keep happening.
When you look at the numbers too, from 2021 to 2024, he's played in only 266 of the Angels' 648 games. So you hear injury prone, and now you associate that with Mike Trout. Isn't that a concern for Trout and obviously the Angels?
Absolutely, it is. It has to be. And you're getting to the point where I still think that they could move him if they wanted to trade him, if he wanted to be traded, which is, it's totally a hypothetical situation because it doesn't seem like either side wants to move on right now. But you're getting to the point with that huge contract where if they wanted to move him, I don't know if it would be a franchise-altering return, and they'd probably have to eat a lot of the money. But yeah, it's definitely a concern moving forward because he's the guy that you need to build around if you're the Angels. You can't count on Anthony Rendon. They don't have a ton of young talent in-house. Shohei Ohtani's long since left in free agency. So Trout needs to be the guy that you're going to build your next Angels contender around. And if he's hardly ever on the field, that doesn't really work out too well. So it's unfortunate from the Angels standpoint that it made all the sense in the world to give him this gigantic extension in 2019. He deserved every bit of it. If you're Trout, you probably thought, hey, maybe they're going to be able to put a contender around me in the next few years. That hasn't worked out. Now you're moving forward with Trout. Where do you go? And it has to be, from his standpoint, it has to be so frustrating to continue to rehab all these different injuries and then having something else pop up. It has to be so frustrating.
I can't even imagine the pain and the frustration that he's feeling right now, just about to turn 33 years old, and another season that's going to be completed. Now, when you look at the Angels, we're just a few days past the trade deadline. Do you think they would have handled that a little bit different with this news? Do you think that they were aware that this was the situation?
I can't imagine they would have handled it any differently. I mean, they're non-contenders right now.
Yeah.
Maybe if he came back and looked like himself, if they would have decided, hey, we're going to trade him now, I can't see that happening. So no, I do think that they missed opportunities. They could have traded Tyler Anderson. They could have traded Luis Rengifo. If the argument is they thought somehow they would get really, really hot down the stretch, and that's why they held on to the guys, assuming that they would have Trout, maybe it would have made a difference. I would be shocked if they really thought they could make a run. But they didn't really trade all the guys they could have traded, and it was a seller's market. So maybe there was a little something there. Maybe I was too dismissive of your question at first.
That's okay. I'm not bothered whatsoever. You look at the Angels and where they stand right now, 17 games behind the Astros in the AL West, 12.5 games out of the wild card. As you said, not contenders when it comes to this season. The Angels, though, they've not reached the postseason since 2014. At that time, Trout was 23 years old. So if you're the GM of the Angels, you look at this year maybe as a wash. Do you think maybe next year there's got to be something you need to do to make some moves? I mean, you have Trout there. Hopefully he's healthy again. You let Shohei go. What needs to happen with the Angels organization?
They're a large market team. I think you've got to try to add some free agents to at least get a little bit competitive. They need to be much better with the farm system. They need to build the farm system up so they can have, kind of a fountain of talent running up through the organization. They need to be better at everything, basically, though, because it's just a terribly run organization, and it has been through most of Trout's career. I said spend money in free agency. That doesn't mean you can cover everything up in free agency, but they need to get several better players. They need better players almost everywhere on the field. They need Trout to stay healthy. They need to do so much. We would have to talk for a long time about what's wrong with the organization and what they can do to fix it. But better in the farm system, better major league players, keep Trout on the field. That's a start.
Trout on the field would definitely be a start. Matt Snyder with the latest news. Mike Trout done for the season, dealing with another injury. He did tear that surgically repaired meniscus, which was operated back on in May, suffering that injury last week while on rehab assignment. Played in a career low 29 games this season.